What's going on, guys, and welcome to July's episode of Plus Club, the show where we play the games offered to us on PlayStation Plus throughout the month, and at the end of the month, we talk about it like a book club. My name's Seth.
I'm Chevy.
And I'm Chris.
Nailed it. Sorry.
Nailed it. Yeah. Quick reminders. I don't know what the fuck you just said. That we have our game of the month. We'll be talking about tomorrow, Final Fantasy X, and we'll be picking a brand new Final Fantasy. I hope not. That's not going to happen. A brand new game of the month tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. We'll be having an in-depth conversation about Final Fantasy X. Also, we played Detroit Become Human and Horizon Chase Turbo. We'll be talking about that in a sec. But also, we have Discord linked down below. You can talk to us anytime, all time. And we're on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast platforms if you prefer to listen to us with your ears. And if you're joining us from Reddit, welcome. Hopefully, we're over on Reddit having a discussion right now. And thanks for stopping by. Yeah, so in July, we played Detroit Become Human and Horizon Chase Turbo, a game I've been having a lot of issues saying correctly all month. So I'm glad this month's fucking over. Also, as of right now, they have not announced the PlayStation Plus games for whatever next month is, August, right?
Yeah, though our luck, it'll be when this airs.
Yeah. So once we figure that out, we will officially say it on the show. I'm sure you guys will let us know before then. Yeah, so I think it's probably best if we start with Horizon Chase Turbo first. Yeah, so if you didn't get a chance to play that, Horizon Chase Turbo is a racing game that takes after early 90s racing games where you had the horizon and you're constantly like driving, and as you turn left and right, the road just kind of bends in those directions, but this one's 3D. There's multiple cars to unlock, upgrades to be had across all the cars, and a lot of maps and paint jobs and a soundtrack. We all played this. Who would like to go first?
I'll go ahead and start. So I mean, like you kind of said, it's one of those old school like Horizon style games. In fact, the first thing I thought of when I started playing it was I was like, oh, this is like if Rad Racer was still being made. Mm-hmm. So it was really kind of interesting because it wasn't what I was expecting at all when it was coming out. I had no idea what this game was, and I hadn't really looked into it until I turned it on. So that being said, I think it has a kind of a neat style to it. It is visually very neat. I like as well that they did a good job with depending on where you are, the map actually or the road or course or whatever term you want to use changes. And you do get like neat scenery for like essentially just going in a glorified straight line. Game's really chaotic as you're first starting off, but like most racing games that'll put you against that many people, because I think you're in like 20 cars or some shit like that.
Seems like it.
Once you get ahead, it's really easy to kind of stay there. So what else? It's really hard to go really in depth in this game because it's
not an in-depth game.
Yeah, it's a very simple game, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I mean, it's not something I'm going to sit there and play for hours and hours on end either. So I do enjoy the way the game's laid out. I do enjoy that to get upgrades, you do a race, and it does go across all cars. You get to choose from three options. I think it's
an interesting choice. Mm-hmm. This is one of the things I kept emphasizing to people, because this is a game you could easily turn on, do 2 races, and be like, I get it. Mm-hmm. And I almost did that. But I played, a couple more races because I was like, I should at least put like an hour into this game. And it's like, oh, you got an upgrade. I'm like, oh, okay. And then it's like, okay, so this goes across all your cars. You get to pick what upgrade you want. I was like, that's a really weird system, but kind of interesting.
For sure. And then, it's... There are a lot of cars, but at least as far as the game as I had gotten, it seems like the stats are literally just barely different in everything, and so it really just comes down to like your preference. And I kind of was like focusing mostly on handling, so I ended up I think using the second car the most in the time I played the game. But even the other cars, like it was only a couple like points off in each direction, so it seems like. Unless it gets crazier in later cars, there's not a lot of variance in the stats, so you're kind of safe picking whatever in that regard. So, yeah.
Yeah. Anything else?
I mean, not really. I like you brought up music. I honestly I don't remember a single song while playing it.
It's one of the only things I remember about the game. This game, I'm just gonna jump into my impressions of it. This is one of the original two that they announced for this month. They took back one to some people's. Some people were stoked about it. In fact, everyone I know was more happy about them taking away. What was it?
PS, yeah.
But then all the PS fans who weren't talking at all and just satisfied with getting PS got pissed when that got taken away. So we got this and Detroit. And when it was originally PS and this, a lot of people were really upset. So like that game looks like shit and PS is shit. I guess I haven't played it. I don't know. So I kind of found myself like defending. I'm like, it's probably not gonna be great, but it's like just a racing game. Like I'm sure, if that was accompanied by like any other game, which we got Detroit, so I don't think people were complaining as much. It's fine as like a racing game. I played it, and I get what they're going for, but I think it falls flat in almost every way outside of it does exactly what it's supposed to do. So this game is trying to take after that retro style racing game. I don't think it does it in any kind of compelling way. It doesn't have any kind of gameplay mechanic that feels modern or even old school. It just looks like it's trying to look like the old games, but the graphics aren't that great. If they would have went completely 2D in a cool fashion or 3D in a better graphical way, I think would have been better options than what they did. It looks pretty like just across the board like basic, like they didn't put a whole lot of time into it. Car selection, are all cars from that time, but they all, the way this game is there's not like a whole lot of like skill in the racing aspect. So all the cars, though they all turn slightly different, accelerate slightly different, I had the same experience every race because this game for me more so felt like a dodging endless runner than a racing game. Because if you hit a car, unless they hit you from behind, you bounce off them in a negative fashion every time. So when you're going around corners real fast, which is just holding a direction, you got to make sure you don't drive into people. When you're driving straight and they drive in front of you, you got to make sure you don't drive into people. Like that's the game while collecting stuff. So it's like almost not a racing game. It's technically a racing game, of course, but like if it never felt like I was playing a racing game when I played it. I felt like I was playing like a mobile game where it's like, don't hit the cars, collect all the coins. The music is like hyper and like synthy in a really cheesy way, but it's not retro sounding in any way. It sounds like somebody in their bedroom made it, which they probably did, and that's fine. I've been making music out of my bedroom since fucking 2002, so it's fine. But the whole time I was like, what were they going for musically here? So like I said, a lot of the things I get what they're doing, I get what they're trying to do, and they did it, but nothing in this really shows off anything or really excels in any real meaningful way. So I kind of started off talking about how like I was like, this game could be great. You don't know. We'll find out. It's just a racing game. You can't really fuck up a racing game. I don't think they fucked it up, but like it is across the board very underwhelming for me. Every time I played it, I just kind of was trying to figure out like what the point of this is. I think it would be better suited on my phone playing that game than like on my console. Now again, I sound like I'm being kind of negative. I'm not trying to. I just, I really would like to, I don't know. Like, I feel like the team definitely thought they had like a really good idea working on this, and some people might really love it. But I feel like in the hands of some other team, they would have done something more with this idea than these guys did. So, yeah, just pretty much across the board, exactly what I thought it'd be, with nothing that was like a big surprise or exciting. Outside of progression I wasn't expecting. So kind of just like, okay. Chris.
It did feel like a very hollow experience overall. It was, like you said, trying to be like one of those late 80s, early 90s like racing games, trying to like kind of make a step up in the genre, but it literally felt like a side step, and the only step they made was like the graphics were slightly better, like the more new age graphics, but like the gameplay wasn't. Yeah, but the gameplay was just minimal. And there's a lot of problems I had with it, particularly like just visually when you're riding down the road and there's like 4 lanes of the dashed lines. I was getting such a headache watching that dash line over and over and over again. I think it's just a personal thing, but just graphically, it was nauseating to play after a while. And it feels like there's no real skill, like you said, other than trying to dodge everybody.
Yeah, later there's tracks with like rocks and boulders in the road and shit. And it's not really skill, it's just repetition. You do the track, you go, oh shit, this rock there, and then you just have to remember it, which again, not trying to complain, but like that's like the challenge that comes up is like the tracks become almost more like puzzle like in the sense of like dodge the cars, do the cornering good, don't hit the rock. Collect all the coins.
And that was another thing I had a problem with is like the obstacles that were partway in the road. Like you had to drive down the middle to avoid them. And if you're driving in the middle and there's a car in front of you, you're kind of just stuck in that position. And there was no warning. Like at least in like F-Zero, they have like the warning like light go off and sound indicator saying there's something coming up. It drove me insane having to dodge those rocks off the side of the road every fucking time.
Yeah. It also does this thing too that I don't remember from older games like this, like the actual older games, but because you're driving essentially at a horizon, sometimes you'd go up a hill so you wouldn't see the road ahead of you because it doesn't. Well, I guess it does exist since this game is 3D, but what they're trying to visually represent, you don't see it. You just see you're going up a hill, and then as soon as you crest over the top, you're in a turn already.
Yeah.
And like I was like, I wish they would like telegraph that a bit better. Like if that's their idea of challenge, it's whatever. It feels kind of cheap to me. But and it never was a big deal. I just go, okay, I know that corner now. But I don't know. I wish there was like a better visual of that you're coming up a hill that there's going to be a turn coming up on.
Yeah, just like a road sign indicating like a turn, like in the top middle of the map, like old racing games used to have. Like there's a turn up ahead, there's a hazard on this side.
Yeah.
Like just something, but it feels so hollow. Even with the extra side modes of like, there was like a time attack one where you got to play like the top 5 cars in the game in this one mode only, where you could compete with each other's scores, which was interesting, but not enough to really carry much gameplay through for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else you guys want to say on it?
Yeah, not really. There's like we kind of already brought up, it's not a very deep game, so
yeah,
I think we've pretty much literally explained the entire game.
I think we've said way more than I thought we were gonna, but I knew that was gonna happen. So there's always a bunch to say on everything. I guess we all talked a lot. I was about to say when I talk about anything, I can just go. Do we go into recommendations first? Okay. It's been a while. It's been a whole month. Yeah, so let's jump into recommendations. I think if you appreciate old retro racers and you are open-minded enough to accept somebody's attempt at that, you should definitely check this out. If you're into racing games in general, I think you should probably check it out. I wouldn't urge you to go do it, but you might like it. I mean, if you like racing games, it's a racing game. If you like endless runners on mobile, games where you're just kind of moving forward and jumping out of the way and dodging and ducking and stuff, you might get enjoyment out of this. It gave me that vibe more than a racing game. If you like collecting stuff, unlocking things, and leveling up in games, I know it's kind of vague, but that's pretty much what you do in this game. You might dig it. If you like that old 90s, late 80s, 90s, sunglasses and fucking neon red Lamborghini, visuals, you might dig this game. Yeah.
I would throw in if you enjoy collectibles in games, because every track has a set amount of things to pick up, which allows you to unlock more tracks, and I believe vehicles. And then I would also throw in, if you got 5-10 minutes and you just want to play something real quick, every race is pretty quick, so you could get a round in while you're waiting for roommate, girlfriend, wife, whatever to get dressed. It's really easy to pick up, really easy to put down. You're not really going to be missing out on anything. So
yeah,
I was going to say the same thing. If you're looking to kill 20 minutes, this is a good game. This is actually a pretty good game for younger kids too, who want to play racing games. I think this would be really good for them because there's no real severe consequences
for the kid demographics.
I used to be
I know. It's good because it's never on my mind. I'll think maybe it's a family game, but you're kids.
If you want to try to teach your dog how to play a game,
yeah.
But the controls are simple enough, and it's not overly frustrating. Like if you fall behind, it's easy to get back up again.
I do appreciate the game does allow you to use the shoulder buttons and the analog or the D-pad and like the X button.
Yeah,
If you want a more like retro vibe of like controls.
for sure.
Yeah, let's get into grades. Unless
Okay.
you guys have something else to recommend.
No.
Game your dog can play. I'll go
Yeah.
first.
Okay.
Set the pace. In my opinion, and I don't want this to sway anybody else's opinion, in my opinion, I think this game across the board could at the very top be a C. I'm gonna give it a C minus. I think it's fun enough. I think it's decently made. But I feel like it's slightly, as Chris said, hollow and falls flat in a lot of places to the point where I start trying to figure out why couldn't they push just something in the game a little further. But it's not at all a bad game. So C minus is passing, just a little under what I would like to give it. I just don't feel C. It's not strong enough for me. Like this game, I typically don't say this. I probably will never play again.
I also will not play again, but that's just because
She's always so happy to say that.
well,
I'm like regretful. I'm like, "Ugh, I don't like saying this.
We
She's
have
like,
to-
I'm not.
We
gonna
play
watch this."
so many games, so like the priority there is real low.
Yeah.
And it's nothing. I'm not trying to say it as a negative towards the game. My priorities are not in chasing a horizon in a game. So,
Turbo.
So to go into to my review then at that point, or I guess my grade review, we're not doing that. I'm gonna go just a little bit higher, and it's purely out of nostalgia. I played a lot of Rad Racer, back on the NES, so I kind of have a little bit of a draw to it in that regard. But I'm gonna go C plus. It is
going high.
It is an okay game across the board. It's not buggy. It plays.
It does play.
And I don't think it has any really bad features to kind of to draw it. It just doesn't have anything going for it either. So yeah, C plus, purely nostalgia. So
Yeah. Fair. Chris.
I am actually going to give it a C minus. Just because the experience felt like nothing to me. Like I hardly even remember most of what I did.
where am I?
Like it felt like nothing. Shrug. What game we talking about?
Meh.
I literally remember maybe 1-2 races that I've done. I don't remember the soundtrack at all.
I have it playing in my head right now. It's the
I
most
have
memorable
F-Zero
thing.
played in my head.
You have what?
F-Zero.
Oh. I've had Final Fantasy X stuck in my head all day, so now I'm fucking thinking about the soundtrack. Which is, I don't know if it's better or worse. Yeah. So, 2 C minuses, C plus. I think all fair grades. Me and Chris definitely were hoping for more maybe. I don't know how much more you get, though, with a game like that. That's why I'm, really having a hard time trying to, I can't even, put out there what I want from
Man,
it.
you got to be able to bunny hop and drift.
I don't
and,
want that either.
ram people off the fucking road and.
The ramming off the road would be cool. If you made it road rash, I'd
It's
fucking
just
be
road
way more
rash,
into
yeah.
it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So let us know in the comments, what did you think of Horizon Chase Turbo? Did you play it? Did you not play it? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What did you like about it? Do you remember the soundtrack? What would you want out of a game like this? Is there other games like this that you would recommend? And what would you grade this game? Do you think this game should be on console, or do you think it should be a mobile game? I guess you can play anything on console, but this one just really feels like a game you would like.
I'll say they put idle games on consoles.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Let's know everything you're thinking about when it comes to Horizon Chase Turbo in the comments below. Second game we played this month is Detroit Become Human, which if you did not have a chance to play that, it is another Quantic Dream David Cage game. It is absolutely a story-based choose your own adventure game, very much like their prior titles like Heavy Rain, Beyond, Two Souls, and the other ones. Fahrenheit, yeah. In this, you are, I'm going to be as vague as possible,
Yeah.
participating in multiple storylines within a futuristic world where androids exist as essentially in between being utilities for people's uses and helpers at certain points. You go through kind of the politics and the personal experiences of said androids in this world that eventually builds up to something greater and becomes very philosophical with the idea of what is it to be alive.
Yeah.
Good.
You think it's fair to say that from this point forward, this is probably going to be very spoilery?
We'll jump into spoilers at a specific point.
I would say I'm going to have a real hard time talking about this game.
Okay, fuck it, yeah. We're going to do spoilers from here on out, so if you don't want to know anything about the storyline, even though we all probably had different stories, I was talking to Josh, he experienced shit I didn't experience. So, and then my second playthrough, I did things completely different. So, yeah, so you've been warned, spoilers. My description of what I gave you, if that's good enough for you, skip forward to our recommendations and grades. I don't think we'll be spoiling there.
I will try to make a mental note to keep my mouth shut after we're done talking about it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, so we all played this before. I just want to let you guys know ahead of time. I bought this when it came out. I played it then. I've been very vocal about liking this game quite a bit. This time around, I did not get a chance to fully beat it. But I did go to specific big events in my story from my original playthrough, and I did them completely different. It does have a cool option where it will let you save over that chapter, and it will affect the rest of the game based off what you did in that chapter alone. So if you're really trying to go through and like get all the things you didn't do, you can go back and do every single chapter individually, and it will save over if you want, or it will not save over.
yeah, it's definitely there for them 100%ers.
Yeah, which is something that I have not seen in a Quantic Dream game. Like they really,
I don't recall that.
They
at all,
put
yeah.
way more options in the game, and they put way more ways for you to know those options exist, and also allow you to go after them. Yeah. So now that that's kind of out of the way, let's start with Chris. You guys all beat it, right?
Yep.
Yes.
So I have beaten it. I just didn't beat it this month.
Yep.
So, and then you guys played for the first time this month.
Yep.
So, yeah, impressions on Detroit Become Human.
Well, like you said, this is a story-based game, and it really feels at times like you're just participating in a movie. Like it's kind of more interactive movie than it is video game. But it's done in such a way that it's so compelling to continue to play, to see where it's going, to see what happens with the characters, the development of everybody, and how they all interject with each other. I had to stop playing this at times because I had to go to sleep. But I was so emotionally and mentally involved in this game. It was such a draw to play. The characters, it's like Shiv said, it's really hard to discuss without doing too much spoilers.
Spoil away.
The whole revolution that you go through was very reminiscent of, every minority's revolutionary movements, in particular the one that I've seen with the LGBT movement. Mm-hmm. And just the experiences that I've had involved in that, doing the protest rallies and the marches and things like that. And the point in the game where you do one of those big marches, you get a lot of options to either like destroy everything and do the violent, or you can do the peaceful protest, or you can do kind of like the in-between. Mm-hmm. And the whole time I'm just like, you don't win anything by being violent. You have to do the peaceful approach, which is what I did for that part. And it's fun to...
You're peaceful?
I was completely peaceful.
Straight up, that's like one of my favorite parts of the game.
It's so powerful.
That part where you're walking down the street, there's something almost like fucking... I don't know. They captured that whole scene. I'm getting chilled right now even talking about it.
So am I.
Yeah, it was done really well.
It was fucking fantastic. The music, the buildup of starting and just talking to an individual one, and then as you're going, they're just all starting to like...
Hundreds.
The cops like, because I literally played that part this morning, and the cops like calling the other cops. He's like, there's a lot of androids here, and they're like, wow, many. He's like, thousands. I don't know. And he's like, because at first he's got his gun up, and then you can choose what to do at that point. But this time around, I did non-violent. The first time, I fucking went crazy, and it's amazing. It's fucking amazing.
You probably had a better result then.
But well, we can get into that in a sec. But it's just funny to watch the guy, like, he's just like, all right, androids, what the fuck? And then like they're just not listening to him. And he's like, okay. And then they're like walking, and the music just builds and shit, and it's really,
Camera starts coming up.
really
Yeah.
good.
Oh.
And just more and more of them show up, and like
Just
the game does a fantastic job of making you, if not the very least, if you're playing through it, you're not necessarily on their side, or you are, doesn't matter. But it makes you identify and understand where they're coming from, and like I said before, this whole game's so like deep in philosophy for me when I played it, because I'm like all about like the idea of like, what is life? Is it being human, or is it being self-aware? And then the experience and stuff. And so that whole scene is just, it resonates so well, because there's like, we just want to live.
Yeah.
There's a part right in the beginning of that scene where you walk up and you tell the person you're free now, and they go to walk off. The person's like, what the fuck are you doing? And like, you can either get aggressive with the dude or whatever. This time I was trying to be passive, and I was just like, you know, he's just like, he's chosen to be free, leave him alone. And the guy's just like, what the fuck? Because like, he's not used to that.
Right.
And you can just see in their faces, they're all just like, okay, I'm free. What do we do now? And like, I don't know. It's really neat. And just the build up to when you get to the fucking end of the street, and you know, the cops show up and shit.
Right.
Sorry, not trying to hijack that. You just
No,
brought up one of my
it's
favorite
fine.
scenes. So it's like, oh,
yeah, no, the confrontation with the police part was so like that swell and that crescendo of like the movement of, you know, we are, you know, alive, you know, we just want to live. If you chose the peaceful route, you go up there and you march up to them, you're like, you know, you don't attack them, the police have guns, they start shooting people. And I was at like, fuck it, this guy's story is over, because if you shoot me, I'm a martyr. So fuck it, go ahead. And I didn't get aggressive with them. I stood my ground, and I let them like come at me. But because of choices that I made way earlier in the game, he didn't die for me. Someone else sacrificed himself for me because I saved him early on in the game. And
I
those
know you're
little
talking about.
tidbits are amazing.
yep.
And being able to see how everybody in the world, at the end of the game, you can see the percentages of how many people chose the same path as you, or chose the same things as you, and how many of your friends actually chose that path. And to see just like the interesting dynamics, open up a dialogue, because I was hanging out with Daniel at the time. He'd played the game, but he wanted to see my playthrough of it, to see the experience of it. And we talked about the dynamics of like my experience with the revolution or the social movements in real life, and how I react to it in the game compared to the other people who may not have had firsthand experience with the social movements, and how they reacted to the game. Which I think is a really powerful and compelling point of this game, is that it opens up dialogue between people. Even if we have the same viewpoints, it just opens up that conversation to be had. And it's really a powerful piece of entertainment. Just, I'm so blown away by it. And that's just one of the stories, and one tidbit of the story.
Yep.
Just completely blown away by everything altogether.
I'm really happy to hear that.
I will say, I'm just like watching how animated you are right now. It's yeah. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
I don't want to go too long because I'm going to hog everything. I just keep going because I'm so
Here, I'll
thrilled about
hop
this.
in. We'll just have a general conversation, because there's so much to unpack here. So for me, I've been a fan of Quantic Dream for a long time. Ever since I first played Fahrenheit,
Yeah,
I've
same here.
liked them. Heavy Rain, I liked when I originally played it. I think it hasn't aged as well as it could have, especially the PS4 version that did not work for me and Chevy. And ultimately forced our hand in giving it an F out of necessity. We had to, because we could not play it.
Yeah.
I don't give Fs typically unless you make a real shit game.
Or
There's
something that
two of them.
doesn't work.
Yeah. So yeah, watching them kind of get up to this point, you know, they've always made these interactive stories, movie-like experiences, making choices and having consequences and interactions, and you know, it's par for the course when it comes to what they do. Watching them get bigger and bolder and better. I mean, even up until Beyond Two Souls, which, at the time I was like, this is their most ambitious game. I actually played that though, like right around the time Detroit came out, because they released that on PlayStation Plus around the same time Detroit came out. So I got to play that like right before I played Detroit. And I'm actually really glad I did play it, because I wasn't really too interested in it. It served for me as a bridge to see where they just came from. Moving from that game, which I thought was decent enough, we talked about that on Plus Club a while back. Make sure to go check that out if you're curious about what we had to say on that. Really made Detroit shine even more for me, because Quantic Dream outdid themselves beyond anything that I could have expected from them. Like I said, I've always been a fan of theirs, but this is their most ambitious project, and not just in like a technical level or graphical level. Everything in this is so much better than what they've done before. It's more ambitious in the routes that you can take. It's more ambitious in the storytelling. It's more ambitious in the scope of this story that I've never even seen portrayed in a movie like this. To see the beginning of characters who essentially in their world mean nothing, rising up to revolutionaries, and you get to see from beginning to literally end their journeys to this point that you're interacting with. You're the one making these decisions, and these events feel real, fleshed out, big, earned. It's really crazy. Not even just for Quantic Dream game, for fucking games in general, for movies in general, for storytelling in general. I was very impressed playing the game. It starts out pretty small with certain characters. Actually, it doesn't start small at all. I think the intro is fucking fantastic. You start out as Connor, who, in my opinion, is the best character in the game. I thought Connor's fucking awesome. I like all the characters a lot. I think Connor as a character, the way he's played by the dude who plays him, his dynamic, he really resonated with me. But I think Marcus is also really cool. He's the guy who ends up essentially being the revolutionary, the guy leading the whole revolt.
Or at the very least, the symbol, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Kara is it's interesting. Connor represents essentially order with doubt to if this is right or wrong. Marcus is empathy in the humanity. You're trying to figure out what it is to be human, the anger, the sadness, the good, the bad, all that shit. It's being fleshed out through him. Kara is
He also gets to experience life from like the top to the bottom.
Right.
Yeah, and they represent that well, because his starting situation, he just works for one of the only people who actually like appreciates their android. It's like more of an artistic type dude, so he views him differently than a lot of people. He's trying to teach him how to be creative. Don't replicate things, or do it, but also how can you imagine things. In the very beginning when you're painting,
For sure.
it allows you to pick what to paint or whatever, and you kind of get this idea of like, did you just copy that and paste it, or is that actually from within, which is an amazing, that's the thing, man. All the stories are so fucking vastly different. It's not just like they're robots and robots work for humans, or they fight against the humans because they don't want to be slaves anymore. Like, there's a lot of fucking layers in this. Like, all the shit David Cage got before this game came out, when people were like, oh, David Cage is a piece of shit, blah, 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 with all the, publications and stuff. That motherfucker wrote his ass off. This story is fucking layered and detailed and resonates. To see Marcus go from that scenario into literally like the themes that you see after what happens to him with the cops, whatever,
right.
and that guy's son. For him, for us as humans, he went to a fucking a scrapyard, where the fuck.
He got dumped.
But from his perspective, I mean, he's like in hell. He like wakes up in hell. There's people just like him, crawling around half alive, just parts or whatever. He's scrapping pieces from them to like get himself back together and shit. And it's
which
really
in itself has moral choices of
yeah.
there's
And
some people
really
you can
fucking
kill
dark
to get parts, and there's other things you can just take longer and harder to look for parts of droids that aren't working anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah, and speaking on that part, actually, that was one of the first times where I actually started making like more like moral decisions in the game. And for Marcus, because I kind of got this, especially after what he goes through with the old man, who very obviously is treating Marcus the way he is, not only because of who he is, but because of the relationship he has with his actual family. So he's old, he's getting more vulnerable. He's got this person who needs to be like family to him essentially. And so I kind of went with this approach when I was doing the junkyard part, where eventually like you go to take like the power core out of the center of, I don't know if it's power core. This is the centerpiece you have to take out. And the android all of a sudden starts screaming like, no, don't do it. Don't kill me. And I was just like, oh, okay. And then it actually gives you, spare or kill. I was like, yeah, well, I'm going to spare her because, that's my people type of thing, and then eventually you do find one that's just completely broken down, but that part works. So you're like, oh, okay. So I didn't have to do that. So, and that was pretty much my entire approach with Marcus through most of the game. And I'll go more detail on points as we get to them, but yeah.
But yeah, my initial interpretation, though, like I said, outside of my moral choices and how I played the characters, I view Connor as like I said, like the quintessential android as a tool, streamlined, has an objective, goes for it with the dilemma of, I guess, corruption. There's that part of him that's making him possibly question what he's doing. I didn't play him that way, but Josh was telling me he played him that way. And then, like I said, with Marcus, he's the android to human experience, that life, all the emotions that come with it. And what do you do in these scenarios? How do you care for people? Do you just give up? Do you fight? All that shit. He's the uprising of the question, what is life? And then Kara is like almost a side note of I don't know, like taking care of something and trying to escape this. I mean, that's pretty much your whole thing. It's like just trying to find a way to survive and live through this.
The compassion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, without getting too into it yet, I didn't really get to play Kara. So.
Yeah, which is weird.
It's like compassion with a little bit of self-sacrifice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, she definitely plays into the moral aspects as well. They all do in some way, but like Marcus really is just like, there's so much decisions to be made with his arc that you have to really decide who you're gonna be. Whereas like Kara, it is more so like, how do I survive this world when I'm being essentially hunted and pursued, and I have people to take care of. Her journey's very interesting. And they're all so different. Just so people know, you lost Kara early on. I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah. Yeah, so, well, I guess I'll just get into that part. So, I think it's the second mission you do with her. Because the first mission you I guess technically third. But anyways, you get picked up. You get brought back to the house with the dad and the daughter. I'm bad with names. I apologize. And you do a bunch of housework, and at some point you find drugs, in laundry detergent, and you kind of get this idea, okay, this guy's into drugs. You already get an idea that he's in debt and abusive because of the way his daughter is, and there's bills like laying on all the counters and stuff like that, talking about his debt. And they live in a real rundown house.
He lives in Detroit.
Yeah. And so you go through the whole thing, and you basically learn the dynamic and you in the house. And then the next one is you're making dinner for them. And then he's been are they smoking it? I feel like they're smoking.
Yeah, they smoke red ice.
But yeah, anyways, he's using red ice, and he sits down and he's fine at first, and then he just starts kind of going down this what word do I want? I don't know. He goes down, like, starts blaming, like, what his problem is, and he starts projecting that as other people's problems. And eventually he starts blaming his daughter to the point where he gets up, he flips the table, she runs upstairs. And he doesn't like that she ran away. And then so he starts pacing around the house, and he's talking about how it's her fault, and daddy's got to teach her a lesson so she never forgets whatever. And he looks at you and he says, "Don't you move." So in my head at this point, I'm like, okay, I'm an android who was just recently purchased. This is my owner. I've got to follow directions, right? And so I didn't move at all. And he goes upstairs. You hear very awful things. And then eventually you go up there and he's taking her to her bed and crying, saying, Daddy loves you, Daddy loves you. Well, she's dead. So he ends up beating his daughter to death. And then he looks at you, gets immediately angry and says, you did this, and attacks you, and then you die. So I lost Kara very early by being the good android, essentially. So
You were the good android at
well,
all.
morally
You're
not so
You're
much.
the complacent tool in a house.
Pretty much. So
Yeah, because I'm like pretty sure everybody or most people didn't go that route because that scene heavily implies that you should be helping her or saving her for moral reasons, obviously. But that was really interesting when you told me about that because that's a scenario I didn't think they would really have the balls to do.
yeah, it's pretty crazy.
So it is really interesting that they would do that because I feel like most people, I helped the girl. I think I fucking threatened him with a gun or whatever and then got her out of there. Yeah, so there's like a large section of the story you didn't experience, but that is your story. Just like at the end of my story was not what I wanted, but it was powerful. It was super fucking sad, and it got the reaction I was looking for. But I still was like, fuck, I wish that ended better because essentially at the end of the game, we're talking spoilers, but and we can't talk about every single part, but at the very end of the game with Marcus and his revolution, I was playing, okay, so when I played the game, I was playing it based off, first off, what I thought the characters were more so like, in my opinion. Obviously, it's my interpretation, but also I was playing off of a lot of the reactions the game was giving me. So through Marcus's story, you get a lot of people's positive and negative reaction to androids in general. You'll see a thing that'll pop up and say that people are now starting to side with you or they're starting to be against. Public opinion, yeah. And I played Marcus very passive for most of the game, but that part in the street like legit fucking like pissed me off as it built up. So I decided to fight back. And there's a really good, like I said, I didn't plan that. I was like, I'm gonna do this passive, and then fucking, when they start like fucking shooting and stuff, like we have to do something, blah blah blah. I start going like, yeah, you can't, like you're gonna die. You have to fight for your life. And there's this really well choreographed fucking fight scene that's just crazy. It's just like a street full of like cops and fucking androids fighting and throwing each other and shooting each other and shit. And I was like, this is crazy. And you're like reacting to it and hitting buttons and stuff. Really cool. Second time I played, I played fully passive. It was very hard. They started shooting everybody. And then as Marcus, I took a step forward because they're like, we have to do something. And it's like sacrifice him. I was like, yeah. So I kind of was pretty much doing what Chris was saying, in a sense. But after that moment, in my first playthrough where fucking I decided to fight back, after that I started viewing everything different with his character. It completely changed my opinion in the game. And I started looking at public opinion stuff too, and people were like, we can't trust androids. Yeah. They're going to fucking kill us all. And at the same time, I started viewing Connor differently too. I was like, if I was Connor and I have no reason to fucking think otherwise, I have to stop these guys. So I was literally playing against myself. I was trying to make Connor beat Marcus, and I was trying to make Marcus, first and foremost, save his people. But at the end, I fucking decided you end up getting surrounded during another kind of like standoff protest thing where you're pretty much getting slaughtered and you're trying to like hold off in this area.
Oh, I didn't have that.
Okay.
Neither did I.
Well, you get surrounded in the street and you make like a barricade. And they're all in there, and there's this whole process of like, they're like, what do we do? What do we do? Like, do we fight back, or whatever? And people are like, we can't fight back. They're fucking surrounding us. We're all going to get slaughtered, or whatever. And the cops are like getting closer and shit, and there's cameras everywhere, and everybody's watching. It's all over the news and shit. And I had my people like hold each other's hands and stuff, and they all stood out in the street and they started singing. And it's just super quiet. There's no music. They're just singing together. And then the cops just fucking unloaded on all of them and killed them all. And then it showed on the news, and everybody's like, what the fuck? And it started changing people's opinions on how we treat androids. So I was like, that was fucking hard to watch. But it's the effect that mattered. which is really fucking
Wow,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, apparently you guys didn't experience
So
that.
going back to the march in the street where you go up to the cops, all the way up, I did everything the same way Chris did, except for in the beginning of the game, I was not nice to that guy. So he did not exist for me. So I got shot, fell to the ground, and then a cop came up and put a pistol essentially to Marcus's head and shot him and killed him.
Damn, you're just
So I
dropping all
lost-
these fucking androids.
But
What the fuck?
But when that happened, public opinion went up.
But was he out of the story?
But he was gone.
No wonder you beat
Oh
the
my
game so
God.
quick.
So I lost Marcus there, but public opinion skyrocketed.
Yeah.
Because I got executed in the street by a cop. So,
I was wondering if they would shoot him or not, because when I played the second time, kind of like Chris's thing, that guy showed up.
Yeah.
The guy put the gun or he pulled the gun on me, and then that guy came out, and then he shot that dude in the head.
Yeah.
And then they
Yeah.
dragged Marcus out of there.
yeah, and because
Yeah.
I told that guy to fuck off in the beginning of the game. 'Cause
And he's like, "We fuck if."
he's like, but I helped you. You're just as bad as the humans, blah, 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 type thing. So,
Yeah.
Jesus.
yeah, so I lost Marcus right there.
So what'd you do the rest of the game?
Played Connor.
Weird.
Yeah.
You got to replay that game. And that's your story. That's what happened. And I actually love that it's completely different, but at the same time, there's so much story you're not seeing that's just
So
fucking
much.
amazing.
Well, the game shows you how much you're missing out. Because even on chat, like when you do the last chapter, it'll literally say every single character and their trees that could happen in that chapter. Even one of them is for what's that the girl android's name?
Kara.
No, I didn't have Kara. Sorry.
You want
North?
to hang out with Marcus?
Yeah,
North.
North, yeah.
North. So North ends up becoming the leader of the revolution.
Makes sense.
And so in that end part, when you're in the street fighting or whatever,
I hate that bitch.
I didn't participate.
Yeah, my
in
first
that.
playthrough, I didn't listen to her ever.
I didn't participate in that last part you were talking about, but it kind of makes sense to me because every once in a while I was playing Connor, it would flash to the streets and it was North running through the streets. And she eventually ended up dying too. So
Wow.
yeah, so the only person
so much-
alive at the end of mine was Connor, and then I had to make a really crazy decision there too, but we'll get to that part. So
Well, we got to kind of hurry up because we're fucking running out of time, which
Oh, yeah,
really
we are.
sucks. I didn't realize
Just-
we are going to talk this much about this.
Just a quick difference of the same
Yeah, go
time
ahead.
period. Instead of the protest, the march you had, the government attacked Jericho in my gate playthrough.
mine too.
That happened to me too. Did it end there?
Okay, no, because I made it out.
Okay.
But up until that point, we were completely peaceful, and my public opinion was super high. And then at that point, I was like, "All right, you attacked me. I have to defend myself," and I went to war with them.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I didn't have a choice there. North was in control, and she's ready to kill people. So
Fucking, ugh, I'm so mad. Fucking North drove me insane because a lot of the times she was just very brash and like, go do this, go to this. And sometimes I would agree with her, but like in the moment I need to get going this way. And I wasn't thinking that I would agree with her, and it did. And then this is something, the only one of the few complaints I have about the game. It felt very forced romance options.
Yeah.
Eventually evolved from that, and I was very upset about it.
oh, see, she always hated me, so it never even
In
came
my
up.
in my first playthrough, I didn't get along with her. My second one, it was like lovers or whatever the fuck. I was like, oh, okay.
I kept it neutral between the three people who were like in the Jericho place, but like for some reason the choices I made her really like me, and then it forced me to be her lover, and I was just so pissed off that every time she tried to kiss me, I was like, no, fuck off.
Girls like
Get
assholes,
away.
dude. They're like assholes. You're playing it all wrong. You need to be really nice. That should be like, ugh.
So, real quickly, obviously, can I hear your guys' endings real fast then?
That was my ending, essentially. Fucking Marcus got killed, so his revolution ended that way, but it changed public opinion. Kara and the kid got killed at Jericho when they're running. A cop stopped them. I tried to plead with him to let us go. He fucking just killed them, which was fucked up because they just died together, like on the ground. I was like, that's not satisfying at all. And Connor's mission was a success. He fucking, him and buddy cop guy did not get along. I know there's a lot of options to
Hank.
be like buddies together and shit, and a lot of people are gonna pick that. But I played Connor like stone cold, and so they ended up getting into a fight. I fucking like threatened to kill him, or whatever, and finally he just gave up. And then, yeah.
Wow, that's way different.
So pretty much Connor did his objective. He fucking mission accomplished. But fucking Marcus's revolution pretty much was effective.
Marcus lived, North lived. All the other leaders of Jericho died because we attacked one of the main facilities for the androids, where they made all the androids.
Mm-hmm.
Connor defected and joined Marcus's group,
So
got into the facility, and converted all the thousands of androids that were in the facility. Mind you, I got Connor killed at one point, and they made a new one.
And then you transferred over to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I transferred to Connor 2.0.
Yeah, that's what Josh was telling me.
And then I was going to release all the androids, and they made Connor 3.0, who tried to stop me. But I beat him in the fight.
Yes.
And converted all the androids.
Mm-hmm.
Kara made it out of Jericho, made it to the shores of Canada with Alice.
Mm-hmm.
She got them to Canada. No, not Alice. Yeah, with Alice, the little girl, but the lady who helped them early on, who was helping androids cross the border, got us to a point where we could escape, got on boats, drove the boats out to the bay, or the river, but the police came and shot all the boats down. They killed the other android that Kara was traveling with.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to speed past it, but they shot Alice. They shot me. I got out, pushed the boat across the river, but Alice died. But Kara made it to Canada.
Damn.
Wow, that's
it was
crazy.
so bittersweet. Like, I was
that's-
so upset.
Yeah. I didn't even get to leave Jericho with those two. And it was just some random dude with a gun who found us. And he's like, you guys are androids, fucking. He shot him. And I was like, it was so dehumanizing. And they're not human. So that's kind of the point. But for me, my journey, I'm like, they didn't deserve to be fucking killed like that. But that's the fucking...
It was so heart-wrenching because Kara is, like, freezing to death, trying to get across the river.
Mm-hmm.
They make it across, and she's, like, barely surviving, carrying Alice, and Alice just fucking dies in her arms.
Yeah.
It was so heartbroken.
That was the little girl, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know nothing about her. So she, spoiler territory, she's also an android. Her chip's being covered. The thing inside of her head?
The guy's daughter?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
So he killed 2 androids in that house. He's just a fucking junkie.
And he bought 2 robots. Okay.
Well, because his life went to hell. He lives in Detroit. He's poor. He's impoverished.
Okay.
He does drugs because
Yeah.
his wife left him. If he had a daughter or whatever,
Right.
he has an android to replicate her. And he obviously has roughed them up before because Kara's refurbished essentially.
Yeah, you get to see, you go, if you open the box, you get to see the picture of the...
But yeah, at Jericho, I think it's revealed
Huh.
that she's actually an android. And
Yes.
I actually didn't see it coming.
Yes.
They did a
Oh,
really
I-
good job with that.
I not to be like boast for anything, but I was like, I bet she's an android.
Yeah.
I bet she is.
Yeah, I honestly never thought about it. So good job with that.
Ooh.
So yeah, I the Jericho part, I play as Connor. I played as Connor invading Jericho. You kind of go in undercover at first, and then when you find them, you report in or whatever. So the backups start showing up, and then as I started talking to North, my whole playthrough I started off really cold, and then as I started getting to know the cop guy more, I started like flip-flopping depending on each situation, to the point where my deviancy kept kind of going up depending, because I would say things that were way too human and not robotic, and every opportunity I had to like kill another android, I wouldn't do it. So that would also do that. So at that point, you're having this conversation with North. I eventually was like, screw it. I've already been pretty much going deviant with him anyways. I'm just gonna go full deviant. So broke all the walls, joined. Same as you. Ended up, the plan was go to the corporate warehouse and reactivate thousands of robots for reinforcements.
Mm-hmm.
Did that whole scene, succeeded in beating Connor 3.0, saving the cop guy.
Hank.
Yeah, Hank. And then what ends up happening at that point for me was I ended up becoming the leader because North died in the raid. Or in the whole thing. So all of a sudden, like they're asking me to give a speech, and I get up there, and all of a sudden, like the light starts going yellow, like when you do your check-in with what's her face, Amanda, and Amanda goes, "Thank you. The plan went according to plan, and everyone went deviant. You've done this great thing for CyberLife or whatever." And then you go through this process of like trying to escape because that one guy who was part of CyberLife kind of gives you a hint. Oh, there's always a back door. So you find a way out, and then I shot myself in the head.
Your story's fucking
what
grim.
the fuck?
So Connor shot himself so CyberLife couldn't be in control of all the androids that had gone deviant.
Wow.
So they are truly free, and the president acknowledged we're going to have to learn to live with them. But I had to sacrifice myself so that the corporation didn't own them.
Your story's fucking depressing.
So, yeah, I lost all 3 of my characters.
Mine was depressing. Yours was really fucking depressing. Mine was like bittersweet. Like fucking, they died, but well, I guess one of your people fucking died.
Succeeded in essentially making humans go, okay, we need to coexist.
I don't know. I kind of dug in my playthrough. I knew I was going to play Connor different than a lot of people because there's a lot of aspects to make him more human, and I didn't want that with him. I felt like he was just a cold fucking, like he was like his version of the android he was like fucking like top tier, high end prototype, and so I played him like. You know, I felt like he'd be very proficient in what he did, and I played him like that. It was very hard sometimes, especially with Hank. I was like, I kind of want them to be buddies. Maybe next time. So anytime he's like, oh, you know, trying to humanize with him, and he's just like, well, nope, just gotta stick to the mission, you know, blah blah blah, that kind of shit. And so at the end, Marcus dies with his crew, but not for nothing. It changed people's opinions, which is important. You can't force people to change their minds. You have to make them want to change their minds.
Right.
But then Connor also succeeded in his mission by stopping the deviants for his group. So it's almost down the middle. The long term will be beneficial.
Right.
But Connor, his individual mission was complete. Marcus's overall impact on the world is yet to be seen, but I can only assume is great. And then Kara just got fucking killed like a dog, and it's awful. Yeah, there's a lot to this game, a lot to go fucking further into. We should really start closing this out though, because we have been talking for a while. If you guys want to hear more on this, I'm sure we could talk about this game even further in another episode.
Sure.
Because there's so much to unpack. Let's jump into recommendations. I'm just going to lead this one real quick. If you like any of the Quantic Dream games, this is, in my opinion, the best one they've ever made. If you like movies, stories, books, choose your own adventure style games, sci-fi, futurism, philosophy, any of that stuff, I feel like this is a must play, in my opinion. I'm glad this game came out on PlayStation Plus because I've been trying to tell people to buy it for a while. Now, if you had access to it, you have no excuse. Definitely fucking play it. And honestly, because these games are pretty much decision-making games and not skill-based games, I feel like everybody should try this game. That's my own personal opinion, though. I don't think everybody will, but I'd like everybody to try it. But yeah, mostly, like I said, any games like this, in my opinion, is one of the more top-tier ones. You should definitely check it out.
I don't think I can really add anything to that, but I do think I can say there's definitely going to be a type of person who enjoys this
100%.
game.
I'm just hoping they'll just
you should try.
Drop all the bullshit.
Yeah.
Become a deviant for once in your fucking life. Rebel, revolt, and try this game.
Yeah. It's definitely a single-player story, very story-driven game. Not a lot of actions, all quick-time events. So, if
Also,
that's okay with you, play it.
Real quick shout out. I didn't get it in when we're talking about it. This is the best acting I've seen in a Quantic Dream game. Best performances, best characters, best writing, best voice acting, best mocapping, best choices, best scenarios, best setting, best everything. It's Quantic Dream's best game in every single way. Everything that I've had problems with in the prior games, even though I enjoyed them, all fucking better than this. Every single thing.
Yeah. I agree.
Chris, any recommendations?
I don't think I can add anything to that. I think you've covered everything, really. I think everybody should play this game.
Yeah, I agree. Chevy, grade it.
Honestly, with the amount of the length of the game, first off, is actually decently long with the amount of
He played
options.
the short version.
Well, and it still took me a long time. So
Chevy beat this in like fucking one night though, which is crazy.
2.
Chevy waited till the
Two
very
nights.
end of the fucking month, and he's like, "I'll beat it," and I'm like, "All right." And then the next morning, he's like, "I beat it." I'm like, "Okay."
I stayed up way longer than I should have, but I
Yeah.
beat it. So
Master procrastinator.
I
that's my blood right there.
I lost my train of
Sorry.
thought. Is what I did. I think this, like you said, is the best game they've made in every regard, and I do enjoy story-driven games a lot, especially ones that actually allow me to make decisions. And the amount of decisions is crazy in this game, and the replayability is there. I honestly think I can't go any lower than an A-. The game is very well done. I would go higher, but I think there is room for improvement always, and I hope they show us in the next game. So
Yeah, so you're giving it an A-.
A-.
Okay. Fuck. Chris, go ahead. I got to think about it for a second.
Shit. Well, this game obviously had a big impact on me. There were a few things. I think some of the choice options were a little vague.
North.
Well, there's a couple here and there that are just like I chose the option thinking it would do something and it did something completely opposite. So they were kind of vague in that, but overall the experience of it was just so mind-blowing for a game of storytelling proportions. I'm gonna have to give it a solid A. I can't give it an A plus because there's always room for improvement, like Chevy says, but I really want to. Like, it's that good of a story. Like, just on story alone, it's that good. Ooh.
Chris, just give it an A+. just do it. Fuck it.
Fuck it. Yeah, I'm gonna give it an A plus. The graphics are amazing.
Thanks for
The story
the
is
channel.
so fucking compelling. I'm so just hyped about it. And I don't want to go back and play it again because I don't want to change the story that I experienced.
That was a conflict I had after I beat it too. I was unhappy with certain things, but I'm like, that's my story. That's what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
First A+ on the channel?
Yeah.
First
so fucking good.
First 2 A+ on the channel. I'm also
Yeah.
giving this game an A+. I fucking love this game. I think it's fantastic. One of the things that I always hold back from A+ is with games that I give A's is lack of emotional aspect to the game. Something needs to resonate with me. I have to think about it after I beat it, and I've been thinking about this game ever since I first beat it. I've been talking about it since I beat it. It's literally everything that I'm into when it comes to sci-fi and futurism and philosophy and the idea of, like I said many times now, the idea of what is life and how do you, decide that, respect it or don't respect it. It deals with all the things I'm really fucking into in a really good story with really good choices and really good characters and really satisfying outcomes and some really dissatisfying but I think fair outcomes. And just a futuristic world that I fucking love. I love every single thing about this game. There's some weak parts every once in a while in the dialogue, but it's not even remotely enough to change my mind on giving it an A+. I was struggling if I was going to give it an A or A+, but I don't think A is strong enough for me when it comes to how much I enjoyed this game, my story, and a couple of scenes that I feel are very impactful that give me chills thinking about them. And that I got to see Chris get really lit up over, which was nice to see. So I'm glad that my love for this game wasn't, just me, because even Josh fucking loved it. You gave it an A-, so really good game. And like I said, it's Quantic Dream's best game. I mean, they've been working up to this. They did it. They fucking nailed it. It's the best thing they've done. And fucking loved it in every way. So A+. First fucking one.
This month's gonna be hard to beat.
Yeah, well, for one game. The other one
Yeah.
weakens it a bit. I think we had a really strong month, like a month or two ago. I forgot which one it was. I have to go back and look at it. It's all fucking blur. But yeah. 2 A+ and A-. I think those are some of the highest grades that any game has gotten on any of our graded reviews. Let us know in the comments. Did you play Detroit Become Human? What did you think of it? Did you not play it? Why didn't you play it? Are you gonna play it? What happened in your story? Let us know the details. What are the most impactful scenes? Did you not dig it? If you didn't like it, why didn't you like it? When you think about David Cage, he has some really mixed emotions. A lot of people are like, he treats women awful in his games, and I would argue he treats a lot of people in his games awful. And yeah, let us know everything you think about when it comes to that game. Also, give it a grade if you want, and yeah, let us know also what are the PlayStation Plus games. I'd like to know. But that's gonna do for this episode of Plus Club on Tasty Loot Gaming. As always, thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this episode. Make sure to check out our other episodes. Check us out on Tumblr, Twitter, and Facebook at Tasty Loot Gaming. Check out me and Chris on Twitch at Tasty Senpai, all one word, that's me, and Tasty_fruit, that's Chris. And that is our water purifier that you're hearing right now. We're on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast platforms if you prefer to listen to us. And we have a Discord link down below. You can talk to us anytime, all the time about what happened to you in Detroit Become Human. My name's Seth.
I'm Chevy.
And I'm Chris.
And until the next episode, which will be tomorrow for Game of the Month, we're going to be talking about Final Fantasy X, another big conversation, I'm sure. Hopefully we can get that done before that fucking thing starts up. Have a good night, guys, and take it easy.